Good evening. I'd like to call this business meeting for September of the Board of Education to order. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? And would you remain standing afterward, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I'd ask you all just to stand a moment of silence for a loss of a 16-year-old student here, an 11th grader, Haley Bergen, who passed away, a tragic pass away, very unexpected within the last 2 weeks. Her mother, Brenda, very active in our PTA. Anytime we lose a student, no matter what the cause, it's tragic, but this is particularly tragic at the beginning of the year. And we've suffered, it seems, a number of losses lately. So I just ask for a moment of silence on behalf of thank you. Announcements, we don't have that many people tonight that will be stampeding the doors, but the exit's at the back of the room, and there's an extra exit up here at the front, your right, if we need to do that. Could I have a motion to adopt the agenda? Jim, second. Bob? All those in favor? Agenda is adopted, and we'll move directly into Board of Education comments.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, hello, Bill.
Christine.
I was delighted to have the privilege to join our fellow board members, Dr. Robinson and Dr. Wood, on the first day of school for the tours of all of our schools and buildings. And it was just a delight to see the energy, the buzzing, everything going on, the kids. Some happy to be back, others not quite sure, but they got into the swing of things. But just seeing also the energy of our staff, welcoming the kids back. And actually, I want to do a shout out to all of our custodial team and facilities. I couldn't believe how spick and span. I've never seen gym floors or hallway floors as shiny as they were. Also the fresh paints and all the hard work to make it a cheerful learning environment for our kids and welcome them back. And of course, all of our staff who, made everything possible for the first day. So I was, again, honored to be a part of that. Also, just congratulations to Dr. Robinson with the article in the Gazette, your Clifton Park Half Moon. I think it was a great article, not only on your accomplishments, Dr. Robinson, but also a testament to all of our staff and the Shen community at large on the direction we're going in, how strong of a district we are, and it's a very proud moment to read that and to see all that has happened and transpired over the past 10 years. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks, Christine.
Yeah, that's short and sweet.
Trainer?
Thank you, Mr. President. I had three things. The first thing I wanted to address was my tax bill. And this is the first time in, I won't tell you how many years of life, that I actually got a tax bill that was lower than the year before. So, thank you. It was a pleasure
when we
paying.
really need them, you know what I mean? You're the newspaper guy.
And I too wanted to express thanks for and congratulations on the many accolades that were recited in the newspaper article. Well deserved, and it helped remind me of all the accomplishments that the district and particularly district leadership has helped to bring about in the last 10 years. And finally, and not to steal anybody else's thunder, but I too enjoyed the first day of school. I'm sure a lot of people will comment on it, but for my part, it was brief, but I am very thankful for being included. So,
Thank you.
thanks.
So between Jim and Christina, they said everything I was going to say, so I'll say ditto.
Okay, thank you. Mary?
A couple other things. Backing up just a little bit further to summer school graduation, that was just a real pleasure to participate in, and they're just models of perseverance, our students who stay the course and continue on and finish up just as proud graduates as any other, and I was happy to be at their graduation ceremony. And it was a new beginning for, what was it, 66 or 68 new teachers, new teacher orientation. All of that energy for the first day of school was a little bit early for them, and it was great to be able to watch them kind of learn more about what the Shen way is, and looking forward to them sharing their talents with the Shen school community. I wanted to just say thank you to the leadership for the thoughtful organization of the board retreat and the discussion of our goals. I just think that was another another way to focus us on the year ahead and what we're here for and what we set ourselves out to accomplish. I think some of the best remarks ever on Superintendent's Conference Day, Dr. Robinson, were a great way to welcome the community back and focus attention on what we're here for again. Just to expand on the walkabout and the custodial staff, the buildings just looked incredible, and when we ran into custodians, they were so proud of what they had accomplished in getting the buildings ready. Some of them had a really, really short window to get ready because we had ongoing programs throughout the summer. And it was amazing. Like, if you didn't know where the programs were, you wouldn't know because every single building was in such great condition. And also, while we were walking around in the middle schools, I noticed many teachers in the hallways, and they're planning what is really their planning time, making sure that lockers are open, making sure that students can find their way around and navigate. They don't have to do that, but they do that because of their commitment. And I'm sure that's a singular example of many, I'm sure, but I did want to just acknowledge it. And we probably all noticed the traffic here, open house in a lot of buildings. I stopped at Scano on my way by. And, our goals all start with improved student achievement by. All of these remarks, all of these experiences are all designed to improve student achievement by collaborating with parents, by developing a sense of community, by offering a learning environment that's conducive to great learners and great teachers. And so I just noticed all of those things coming together for all of us, improving student achievement by making whatever contribution we make, and that includes the parents as they start making their way around to open houses and PTA meetings and so on. And I'm done.
Thank you. Thank you. Gary?
Recently, there have been a number of articles written in some of our newspapers, and they've outlined various things, one being the governor's most recent initiative to create yet another commission to study how to get the Common Core implemented and designed in such a way that it'll resolve some issues that he has and some other people seem to have with the Common Core. We keep talking about career and college ready. And, I was thinking about that, and whatever happened to the concept of having each and every student realize their full potential? It's a whole lot easier, a lot more simplistic to say college and career ready, because that may be some kind of an index that you can apply more generally and measure against. But the reality is that we want each and every student to reach their full potential, no matter what that happens to be. And I'm afraid that no matter what it happens to be, gets lost in the career and college ready. And it's symptomatic of what has happened over the recent course of time when we're trying to put everything against a yardstick or some kind of a metric. We miss so many things that are so important. And I don't know that the pendulum is beginning to effectively swing in the other direction. I hope it is, but time will only tell. I heard Chuck Diederich, our district superintendent for Capital Region BOCES, say, this year, for the first time in a long time, I can see a light at the end of the tunnel. He said, more recently, it's been an oncoming train. That's all I have.
Thanks.
We want to talk about two things. One is what I call what we do, and the second is what we don't do. What I noticed on Superintendent's Day, I looked around, not only saw the new teachers, but I also saw a lot of the staff, the academic administrators, going the extra effort to help them out, help them to adjust, help them to understand what's going on. I saw that across the board, and it says a lot about what we do in the district. These 68 new teachers are our future. We look forward to, over the next 4 years, no longer 3, but providing the best possible opportunity to earn tenure and to make this your profession and career. And I think we abide by that, and we also want to position you for success to do that. What we don't do, there was an email sent by Mr. Ripchett, and I think it was very appropriate that at a certain point when it comes to scheduling, we can't schedule things like changes in lunch for your friends. You know, we really can't do that because we have to set priorities in what we do. You know, as Gary mentioned, it's not just about being college and career ready, but it's meeting your full potential. And part of meeting your potential, and it wasn't articulated this way in the email, is that in high school, you have to make new friends, okay? And that's the way you do it at lunch, and you have to adapt to that, okay? Because we don't have an infinite pool of resources to do the scheduling, okay? The focus of scheduling should be ensuring that the potential to learn is being met. And so that's one of those things we didn't do, and it's appropriate. So that's all for me.
Thank you. I actually want to comment on we did the walkthrough, and we talked sometimes about metrics, and so my last Fitbit that gave me the dots and told me how far I'd walked broke. So I got the new one that actually gives me the steps. So for those of you who were on the tour, we did 4.5 miles that day, walking through the schools. And as it relates to counseling, we didn't walk through the high school. We stood and saw wave after wave of kids getting off the bus. And Mary, I remember looking down that line saying, oh, wow, that was, I don't know if that was 2,400, but that was a lot of students. And then 2 other waves of buses came through. And we did walk into the lobby and walked into the counseling center. They'd done some painting and some other, mounted some signs and things over the summer, and they wanted to show us that. The thing I was impressed with, I thought it would be absolutely mobbed in there with people waving their schedules around, Bob, and looking for all these changes, but it didn't seem that way. It seemed a very even start, and I thought that was, it showed that there was planning going into that process. I was really, really happy with it. And finally, I just want to comment on, Gary and I had the pleasure of being at the table when we interviewed Oliver 10 years ago, and it was a great interview we had, and he was very convincing. And we said that at the time one of our goals was we didn't want to rest on our laurels, and we didn't want the status quo. And you've certainly challenged us, Oliver, and so we're thankful for that. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Can I add?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Reminded me at that table, one of the things that I found very remarkable with Dr. Robinson, he had gone through a grueling schedule that day. Meeting with various focus groups and different groups of people and so forth. And it started early in the morning, went right through the day. And I think it was 8, 9 o'clock at night that he's finally talking. And his energy level was still up here. And I didn't go through all that. My energy level wasn't up there. And you know, his energy level hasn't gone away in the last 10 years either. And that's remarkable. We have really been fortunate to have this man be with us as long as he was. I think it was kind of the consensus of the board, we're going to be lucky if we can keep him 3 to 5 years, because that was kind of the general thing. And then all of a sudden it was 7 years. Now it's 10. All I can say is thank God he's got a younger daughter that he wants to keep in the district.
Thank you, Chrissy. We'll move on to public comments. Are students here tonight? Mm-hmm. Yes, come on forward. 3, good.
So was Starbucks around 10 years ago?
No. So, tonight, give us your names slowly. I was spoiled last year. The 2
Taylor and
representatives were
Taylor.
both named Taylor. It was easy to remember. So it's going to be harder this year. But,
I'm
well,
Sarah,
Sarah.
and this is Alex.
Yep, I'm Alex.
And Emily's with us today. She is the president of Senate, so she came and joined us for the
thank
first
you.
meeting.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Good.
Yep.
Do you have anything, it's so early in the year, but do you have anything to report? Anything that's going on?
We did have our first meeting yesterday, so we got a few things coming up to share with you guys. The first thing is Spirit Rally, October 2nd. You're all welcome to join us. It's at 2 o'clock on the field. We're very excited to kick off the year with some school spirit and getting our teams out there, getting everyone excited about fall sports. We have talked and decided as a Senate that we're going to be buying 2 new mascot costumes this year. We got the new logo last year. We felt the need to update the costume Plus, it it gets hot in there. It's kind of old, kind of gross.
Can't really see anything out there.
No, you
I've
cannot
been in there.
see. And we'd also like to get the mascot a little more active, get him skating on the ice at hockey games. So we're buying 2 suits so that if we have games on the same night, the mascot can be in both places. And we got them for a great deal. So we're very excited about that. And this year we're also excited to announce that Senate has expanded its membership from 64 members to 112. So almost doubled,
Wow.
actually doubled. And we're just trying to get everyone really active in the school community, get people's ideas out there, and let people share what their opinions on certain events and policies in the school are. So we're very excited. Do you want to share a few things?
Yep. And then later on in the year, I believe this is towards the last week of October, we're trying to do an anti-bullying event where in Shen there isn't that much bullying, but it's more like accepting who people are and judging. So we're trying to do a week-long event with other clubs like A World of Difference, and just do a week-long event of just trying to get the word out there to just don't be as judging as most people are in the first place. And then the next event would be the snowball, because unfortunately we can't do a homecoming dance just because of lack of time. And that's looking towards the end of January. And it's between semi-formal and prom, so we're trying to do a bit more formal, but not like prom formal.
Okay.
So that's basically all we have so far. I don't know if Emily has
They
anything
cover
to
it
say.
right, Emily? Did they
Yeah,
get
they
everything
did.
right?
Good
Yeah.
job.
I would say on behalf of the board, we really enjoyed last year. You had several speak outs where we were able to come in, sit in those, listen to students who spoke very respectfully and discuss serious issues. And I think we learned, especially the homework one I found particularly interesting. I learned things I didn't know that we were doing in schools, good things. And Mary, you were at several. We would, if any of those invitations are still floating around for those kind of events, we would be very interested in
Of course.
We did talk about possibly, this is all tentative, but at the end of the anti-bullying week, possibly having a speak out about that,
Okay.
letting people share their opinions and that kind of
Great,
stuff.
great.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
I should ask, this is a time for residents to speak. Are there residents here who would like to speak tonight? Then I won't give my full lead in. We'll lead into the superintendent's report, but before we do, we have the, need help.
This could be dangerous.
We're doing magic trick, don't worry.
Doing magic tricks back here.
There we go.
To celebrate.
Wow.
We have a cake that says, Shen, here's hoping for another 10 years. We picked up these messages without even knowing them. Congratulations, Oliver Shen.
No pressure.
Number one, the flag is there because we're going to need some help cutting up this large cake, and everybody's going to have at least 2 pieces before they go home. But our plates and napkins are flagged, so
Nice.
so that's, congratulations. Napkins.
Thank you
Can't
very much.
even have utensils. Oliver, we should get you a picture in front of this for Kelly.
Can I get a picture with the board in front of it? You're responsible.
We'll get back to you.
But if, while Mr. Casey and Mrs. Rajat deal with that, first of all, yes, please, make sure students, this is a great night. Tell all your friends that you came to the board meeting and they had cake because you guys were here. So they'll miss and they'll come to board meetings in the future. But I just want to offer just a couple of comments here. Part of it is a little filler, but on a very sincere note, want to say that truly it's been a collective working responsibility. I'm one person, and all I could do is my part, and hopefully my part is trying to inspire and motivate other folks to do their parts as well. But we have a lot of great people here at Shen, and even tonight we'll be recognizing some of our mechanic staff from transportation, as an example. We have a lot of great people here who work for the organization, and we have a lot of great people who are committed to a lot of great kids. And I say that to our students because it's a personal responsibility that we take as educators to ensure that your best interest is always kept at the center, the heart of what we do. And I think sometimes students don't appreciate that because they think, oh my God, I got to go to school. I have 3 of those, oh my God, I got to go to school kids as well. But really, it's truly a tremendous pleasure to be in a profession that we mold minds and shape futures. That's what we do every day, try to mold minds and shape futures, and I appreciate that very much. And I want to say thanks to Mr. Casey and Mr. DeLallo because about 11 years ago, Mr. Casey actually hounded me when I was Superintendent Mahonison and said, hey, you got to consider applying for this job at Shen. And I kept saying, I'm so happy at Mahonison. He was like, just have the conversation. And I remember the conversation started, and it's been a wonderful marriage, and people alluded to time, and yes, barring some miracles such as winning the mega lotto or something to that effect, I committed to when my son started high school, I committed to him 4 years ago saying, if you start high school, kid, we'll be here. My daughter had a hissy fit saying that how can you make a commitment to one and not to the other? So she's in 8th grade, so committed to being here. So needless to say, unless the board desired not to have me for the next 5 years, my intention certainly is to be here for the next 5 years and beyond. So I share that because it's not every day you get a chance to be recognized by people you have so much respect for. And I have tremendous respect for this Board of Education, current and past members. I just commented to Mr. Casey before that I was looking and saying, what if Janet's going to show up? Janet Gray, who is on the board when I was hired as well, and people who over the course of the past 10 years have come and gone. But the beautiful thing about it, people have come and gone, but our focus remained the same. And Mrs. Blaber alluded to that in her comments that our focus is trying to do what's in the best interest of our students. And so I really appreciate this. It's more than symbolic to me. It's very real. It's very personal. And I appreciate it very much because it's truly about the collective work and responsibility. And so our students, I hope you guys could take this back and deliver the message that, you know what, Shen is great because we have a lot of great people working in one accord on your behalf. And that's what we do every day. That's what I do every day. And I hope that every educator who works for us has that same kind of inspiration in their heart, in their soul, in their minds to do what's best for our kids. So, again, thank you for this wonderful recognition. You didn't have to, and I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. I do want to, you did say something that reminded me. We were in the selection process, and we knew of Oliver, and he hadn't applied. And it was getting down to the day before, and he had applied. I had a conversation with him. We had a common friend who said, you gotta talk to this guy. So I had a conversation with Oliver on a Thursday afternoon to say, you know, Shen, you need to apply for this. It's like the lottery. You can't win unless you buy a ticket. You got to make an application. And he made the application, and the rest is history. And I just echoing a comment that Gary made is that what I find so refreshing in Oliver is that when he comes to work every day, it's like his first day. He's got that excitement, and his eyes are bright, and he's looking around and saying, what else can we do? And I think that is just a testament. I've worked with people who, and you've probably worked with them as well, that over time, the system got him, and the system hasn't got Oliver. He's challenging the system, and we appreciate that. We appreciate the leadership of it.
And I appreciate that, too. And you know, part of the energy piece, Mr. Casey, this is a compliment to my colleagues, particularly my administrative colleagues. You know, I work with a lot of very bright, smart people, a lot of people who are very real, and they're here. I could point to Kelly, I could point to Erica representing administrative principal folks. I could point to Michelle Mallard, Elizabeth Wood, Jill, Kathy Wetmore, especially the district level folks, people who come with that same mindset. And I could even point to one of our newest members of our team, Al Karam in transportation, come with that mindset of, hey, you know what, let's not rest on what we have done, but ask the question, what can we do better? And you know, and that's the fuel. That's the fuel that drives the system. Asking that simple question, what can we do better? And you know what? And I think something was quoted. I said, the only thing I could give to Shen is the best of me every day. And hopefully the best of me every day will be more than good enough to get the job done. So, and model that for folks. So I appreciate it. And the support of the board has been tremendous. Tremendous support of the board to allow us to do a lot of creative things, innovative things, and push the envelope when we need to push the envelope. You go out on a limb knowing that you're not alone on that limb. And even when you take that fall, knowing that people come and say, hey, it's okay, we'll fight another day. It was worth taking the fall. So I really appreciate that very much. And we have a good system and a lot of things ahead. So kudos to a lot of folks who has made the last 10 years great. And you know what? Hey, we have a heck of a lot more work to do. And because we have 10,000 more kids in the future preparing to walk through our doors. And we want to make sure that tomorrow's education is in fact better than today's, because the demands on them is going to be much more so than the demands today. So we want to make sure that each day is better than the day before. So again, I thank you for that as well.
Thank you.
And since I'm kind of here, and I hope you guys got cake in the back?
Yeah.
Okay, you know, so pretend like this is a quiet dinner party and just if you don't mind, Mr. Case.
No, move right on. Yeah.
Before we introduce some of the presentations, one other thing I want to say too, and a lot of board members alluded to Superintendent's Conference Day. I know a lot of colleagues in a lot of school districts where the Board of Education, one, some cases not invited, two, don't see that that's something that they should be engaged in as a part of their opening day. The presence of the board sends a powerful message at Superintendent's Conference Day, be it one board member, 5 board member, all 7 board members. A powerful message that back to what I said before, that this is a collective working responsibility by many folks. So I really appreciate board members being there and being present in that piece of it, because that's, for me, Superintendent's Conference Day is one of 2 times a year, when you think about it, that I have a chance to speak to about half of our population. And I did that with teachers, and I went over to aides and monitors and had a chance to speak to our aides and monitors, which is another 200 or 300 folks as well. And day before that, I was at transportation, I think a couple of days before that, with Mr. Karam, speaking to our bus drivers. And to show how powerful presence is, just to paraphrase a little bit, one of the bus drivers sent me and Mr. Karam an email that night expressing that how fortunate she felt to be a part of an employee here at Shen, to be a part of the system, because she didn't feel as if because she drove bus, she was viewed one way. She felt as she was a part of contributing to the larger whole. And that email solidified to me truly what this is about. It doesn't matter what role, what titles we hold. It's ultimately, it's how do we bring the synergy of our efforts and focus on our kids. And so the same way I say to drivers that, you know what, your interaction first thing in the morning is as critical to those kids as the interaction they may have with a teacher in the classroom, a monitor in the hallway, or administrator otherwise. Every interactions make a difference. The question is, will it make a positive difference or will it make a negative difference? And that's the choice, and certain high school kids know this because Mr. Flint says every day, the choice is yours. That's a choice that I want to encourage our folks every day to do things to make a positive difference on behalf of our kids. So the presence of the board members choosing to come to Superintendent's Conference Day makes a huge positive difference for our staff. Huge difference for our staff, and I don't want that ever to be neglected. People think that's a gift. It's a given. It's a choice people make to either use vacation time for work or change work schedules or otherwise to be present and volunteer their time of service. I want to say thank you for that piece as well. We've had a great start of the school year, and you've heard many of the comments before, and knock on wood that will continue down the road. We're excited about what the year is bringing. We have a lot of interesting unknowns on tap. Tonight you'll hear when we talk about APPR a little bit, some of the unknowns surrounding evaluations. However, with all those unknowns out there, our focus is still very simple. For those things we can control, we're going to make the best of it. And for those things that we can't control, we're going to mitigate the damage. I mean, quite frankly, Richard. That's how we try to approach things and not try to stress over things that truly outside of our control versus really try to focus those things that we can control and or influence as we move forward. So I want to share that piece with you. And the recognition piece and I appreciate the board providing an opportunity for recognitions. And tonight we have a great recognition again, and I'm going to have Al Karam come forward as well as John from Utica Mutual because it's important. I think it's important to send a message to the public that we have a lot of great people doing a lot of great work, but more importantly, it's send a message to our employees to say thank you for your great work and model for our kids that, you know what, life is truly about hard work and effort and that sense of determination to get things done. And so tonight we have one of those recognitions. I want Al just to introduce and then we can go from there.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson, and congratulations again on your
Thank you.
10-year anniversary. Looking forward to working with you for many more. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, members of the board. Before I introduce John in the presentation, I'd like for Mr. George Gill and Mr. Shane Denton come up here. George Gill is our fleet maintenance supervisor. He's got well over 30 years in the transportation profession, and he has many tasks he performs for us, but certainly the biggest one is the mechanical safety of our school buses. Mr. Shane Denton is one of the 14 mechanics we have on staff, and he's here representing the mechanics. That's really where the rubber meets the road when it comes to the safety of our buses, and those guys do a phenomenal job. And so with that, Mr. John Laufer, our partner from Utica National, sends us a lot of safety messages through email every now and then. He has a presentation to make. John.
Good to see you. Hello. Like Al said, I'm John Laufer. I work at Utica National Insurance Group. We provide the commercial insurance to the Shenendehowa School District. My job is to work alongside folks like Al and other members of the team to help try to keep a safe environment for you all while you're going through the course of your day, staff and students alike. When you think about all of the hazards and exposures that a student can get injured by through the course of a day, it's pretty staggering. Children can get hurt on playgrounds, in school buses, on wood shops, in science rooms, in the cafeteria, in the hallways. They can get hurt really in a lot of different places. When you see a school bus driving down the street tomorrow morning, you have to know that the person driving that vehicle is a trained professional driver. It takes dozens of hours just to become a school bus driver in your first year. Beyond that, they go through hours and hours of annual training required by New York State, and I know Al and his team here have a lot of additional training that they provide to the drivers and the minors that are on board. And the whole goal of that training is to make sure that when something happens out there on the road, the drivers are prepared to react properly. But all that training, no matter how much it is, wouldn't mean anything if they got in the bus at 5:45 in the morning, turned the switch, and it didn't start. Or if they pushed a button on the dashboard to activate a safety device and it didn't activate. Maintenance of the school buses is vital. I'm here tonight to recognize the maintenance staff of the Shenendehowa Transportation Department. New York State has a special school bus unit as part of the Division of Motor Vehicles, and they have trained inspectors who go around and inspect school buses and school bus operations, both in district as well as contractor operations. The manual that they use is 120 pages long. They inspect upwards of 200 items on school buses, including things such as body requirements of a school bus, aisles, defrosters, doors, grab handles, guardrails, glazing and window construction, heating, the horn, insulation on school buses, lamps, signals and reflectors, mirrors, paint and other markings, rub rails on the school buses, seating and restraints, speedometer, step well, tool compartment, undercoating, ventilation, wheel housing, windshield wipers and washers, the chassis construction, brakes, the exhaust system, tires and wheels, the fuel systems, engine fire warning and protection devices, the emergency exits, electrical system, emergency equipment, and specially designed equipment for vehicles transporting those who are disabled. It's an extensive list, it's an extensive inspection. If they find something wrong with the bus, they'll take the bus out of service, either for a day or maybe the next day by the time the mechanics can get the vehicle, whatever it was, fixed. A good school bus operation will have 1 in 10 vehicles taken out of service, yielding a 10% out of service rating. A really good school bus operation will have 1 in 20 taken out, yielding a 5% out of service rating. In the last 3 years, the DOT has inspected 1,363 buses at Shenendehowa and taken 15 out of service for a 1.1% out of service rating, which is phenomenal. It's my pleasure and my honor to give this certificate of recognition to the staff of the Shenendehowa Central School District.
Come on, guys. I know you guys are camera shy, but this is your moment to shine.
Well, thank you very much. Just in transportation, the year never stops. It ticks away. Our inspections are each bus has to be inspected every 6 months. It doesn't matter whether it's spring, summer, or fall. Brake inspections have to be done once a year or every 14,000 miles on the big bus, 10,000 on a little bus. And plus we have a 30-day, 45, or 56-day inspection, depending on the size of the bus. It never stops. And we run, just put it in perspective, we run more buses in the summer than most of the school districts around here do during the regular year. And the guys that are working in the shop are doing a great job. Guys like Shane here.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
You got it, Kelly?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Everyone hang that in there first. Everyone hang that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much again. Again, another wonderful opportunity to recognize our staff for doing a wonderful job in ensuring the safety of our kids.
Maybe, could I just, Al, we wanted to mention to you, when we were doing the tours of the opening day of school, we did talk about, and we'll make arrangements with you, I don't want to surprise Dr. Olive, Dr. Robinson, but we'd like to have an opportunity for the school board to come over, meet the folks, see what's going on, and express our appreciation. So we'll coordinate with you on.
Looking forward to it.
It doesn't sound like there's a slow day, so we'll just have to figure out when to do it. Okay, thank you.
Do we get to take a ride on the bus, too?
Yeah. Todd wants a ride on a bus.
As long as you don't drive it like Dr. Rob.
Thank you.
Thank you. Speaking of rules and regulations, and want to provide the board, and I'm just going to put a little overview, so to speak. Our intent is not to go through the letter of the new laws and regs here. That's not the intent, and quite frankly, I'm not sure that's ever a good use of time. Nothing against laws and regs, Mr. Trainer, being an attorney. However, the reason why I say that, because a lot of that stuff is evolving as we speak, and so what we're hoping to do tonight is provide the board an overview of the APPR piece, the pros and cons, the old and the new comparison, so to speak, so we have some sense of where we are, and then some conversation about some next steps in terms of where we're going. I try to share correspondence with the board in a Q&A fashion a couple of days ago to try to address some broader strokes type items as well. Some things that we didn't intend to spend a lot of detailed time here, because we'll be having more conversation related to APPR as things unfold in the coming weeks and months as well. So, Dr. Wood?
Thanks. So this evening I will give a brief overview about how 2014-15 went with APPR, and then we will highlight toward the end of the presentation some of the changes that are in store under the new regulation. So for 14-15, I guess you call it year 3 of APPR, and each year we'd like to think that we get a little bit smarter about implementation and think through it, and we see potential ramifications. If X, then Y, et cetera. And we really made a very concerted effort last year to look at the amount of testing we were doing related to APPR specifically and make some very strategic reductions. We eliminated pre-tests in the vast majority of courses. In fact, the standard rule of thumb was if you could show that you had been giving a pretest prior to APPR, and you could show that you then used the results in some way to modify your curriculum as a result of what you learned from the students, then you could continue pretesting, and if not, we weren't going to continue that practice. So that eliminated the vast majority of pretesting. We also discontinued the use of iReady. I will say mixed feedback. Some people really liked the data related to iReady, which was an assessment we were giving at the elementary level 3 times a year. It was on the computer. There were some very good pieces of iReady, and there were some teachers and principals who really appreciated the data. We also heard from some others that it was a very foreign experience for some of our children, that some of the children were being taken through too aggressive of a schedule. In other words, because it was a computer adaptive program, it would move them up too quickly. And at some point, we sit down with the teachers and kind of weigh out all of the pros and cons of continuing it. And certainly not to say that we would never look to another product like that, but realize that at that time, at the end of last summer, it wasn't suiting our needs quite exactly as we had hoped. So set that aside. We still needed a way to measure growth, and really had to then go back and do some looking at how can we do this that is the least disruptive to our students and using measures that are already in place. And we moved to a large number of group measures throughout the system where, say, all of the teachers of chemistry that end in the chemistry regions were all part of a group chemistry growth measure, or at the elementary, teachers were tied to a building growth score. We also made some adjustments to APPR to try to provide a truer measure of what teachers were actually able to have an impact on. Initially, regardless of when the child entered the class, the child was being factored into achievement testing, which was the benchmark testing at the end of the year. And we set some seat time requirements so that teachers really felt as though they had an opportunity to have a positive impact on the learning of those students before those students were factored into their score. We also provided an opportunity for our teachers of special education students where students had an academic history indicating that they may need an alternate target. Those alternate targets were considered. So it's not just a blanket, it isn't necessary. Many of our students with special needs meet the high standards as they are, but some of the children really did need that. And I think that was an appropriate adjustment that was made last year in terms of 14-15 and adjustments. So now we move on to our scoring. This graphic shows the composite scoring, which is when you add up all 3 pieces, the growth of students, the achievement of students, which is really a grade level proficiency mark or measure, and then the 60 points for teacher performance or teacher evaluation in the classroom. When you add up those 3 components, this is the breakdown related to highly effective, effective, developing, and ineffective. These are all spelled out in the law exactly how you have to break down the categories. You can see strong performance by Shenendehowa teachers, and truthfully, we're not surprised by that. When you look to the next slide, you'll see, and this is an area where we really have put the greatest emphasis, is our observations in the classroom, going in and seeing teachers in the classroom. We have held very true to the tenets of the Danielson rubric. We, as an administrative team, have many conversations about what the language of that rubric sets forth in terms of good instructional practice, and how can we use the observation as an opportunity to engage in dialogue with teachers about good practice. So you'll see the scores. We have a great deal of teachers in the highly effective category and a great deal in the effective category. 2 fell into the developing and none were in the ineffective. And again, those parameters are all set by the state in terms of which numbers fit which area. I would say really we're very satisfied. Highly effective is very good, and really a lot of the effective performance, if you look at the Danielson rubric and you look at what translates to effective practice, that level 3, it's very good practice. It's the kind of practice that you are very pleased if that is what your child has, and it leads to solid results on the outside. So I don't want that to be looked at as though it's problematic. it really truthfully is not. In terms of, we do go back and look at the data so that we're able to guide professional development. When we look at the 3 highest scoring areas of the Danielson rubric, I've got those spelled out. We also have the 3 lowest areas. They're truthfully not that low. The score is going to be a 1, 2, 3, or 4, and so when your lowest scoring areas, you have more it's above a 3 on average, that's still a good score. I would also say that for 1D, demonstrating knowledge of resources, when you really look at the rubric itself, the language to achieve a 4 isn't something necessarily that is tremendously important for most teachers to establish some sort of connection with a university. Very good practice is a 3, and we are very satisfied with that. Designing student assessments is very challenging, and that is, and will continue to be, areas of focus for professional development moving forward. So now,
you use this as a tool to help you put together the professional development plans.
we absolutely do. And we also use it even right down to an individual level. If we notice a certain teacher has struggled in one specific area, we can have a conversation. It's very interesting, and I learned so much through some of the interviewing process, but interviewed a teacher this summer, and I was jumping for joy inside. She was trying to move from one position internally to another position internally, and I asked her about a significant change she made to her professional practice and why she'd made that change, because one of our goals is to hire people who are ever evolving in their practice. And she said there was one area on the Danielson rubric that I just could not reach the 4. I don't know. And she really rolled up her sleeves and worked on it and came up with a way that, wow, I could actually apply this to my first grade classroom. She then worked with her building principal to provide professional development for her colleagues on that particular area. So there are a lot of great things going on, and it happens on the macro and it also happens on the micro level. So shifting to the new law, I wanted to give you some sort of visual so that you could see what has been and what is to be. You'll notice that it was previously broken out into growth, achievement, and observation. The new law really compresses that growth and achievement. Achievement is essentially gone out of the new law. It is really focused solely on growth. So you'll see, maybe I should have put in the graphic just a 0. It really doesn't exist. And the student performance goes from 40% or 40 points to 50 points. And the teacher practice goes from 60 points to 50 points. You'll also see within that, and again, we must use a state-provided growth score. When the district receives that score on a teacher, that is what we are required to use, or we have to establish an SLO. The language right now is that an SLO, they call it student learning objectives. It's really a measure of growth of students over the span of a year, and we set targets for what that expected growth should be. Really, one of the challenges in the new regulation is that all of those measures have to be somehow developed by the state, or they have to be, if they're developed by the district, they must be approved by the state. And I was thinking, driving here today, that just the number of assessments that we would need to have approved here, and not to exaggerate, but I don't think I would be exaggerating to say 150 or 175 assessments or so we would need to have approved. And that would just be in Shenendehowa and not factoring the larger state. So I think clearly there's a message there in terms of where they want the emphasis going toward the state assessments. And not just the 3/8 assessments, also Regents exams, so anything that is created by the state. They have also made some changes and the law has, in terms of observation, where a heavier weighting is going to the building principal or the supervisor in the regulation, and the other observer is to be an independent observer. The regulation basically says as long as they don't reside, their office is not in that school building, so that would fit. We do have an administrative structure that supports use of independent evaluators through our academic leaders. There is an optional trained peer observer as part of it as well. And then the scoring process is different as well. So,
Sorry, before you go on, going back to that last slide, is this stuff this is still, there's still some question on this, right? I mean, is there the potential that some of this is gonna change, or is this now set in stone and it's?
Right now, first of all, this is a law.
Right.
And the big question is, and right now, it's also what's now prescribed in state regulations.
Right.
The big question still debating is, will the state itself petition to have some changes that may in fact impact law and/or regulations? However, and Elizabeth is going to talk about a little bit at the end, in terms of next steps. Right now, we're living in this side of the equation. And in the next steps here, we're going to talk about what we have to do between now and the potential of living in that side of the equation. But it is the law of the land, and that's what we're working from right now, waiting for the state to come out with guidance.
Yes.
And the guidance is kind of help you how to do it.
Right.
I don't anticipate, quite frankly with you, the guidance is going to change a lot of that because this is in statute. Right now, that's the difficulty with it. This is in law.
And the state is really good
Yeah.
at guidance.
Go ahead, Gary.
I'm sorry. At the point when we're looking at slide 3 and 4, the test breakdown as opposed to the observation breakdown, from what I understood, one of the motivations for making the change in the law was that they thought there was too close a relationship between the building principal, the observer, and the people who were being observed, and consequently they were getting better scores. Therefore, they wanted to reduce that impact of the observations and increase the scores. In our case, we do better.
Exactly. Yeah, and you bring up a very good point that it actually, what probably drove some of these changes, our data does not bear that out. I would also note one of the concerns about what was, I believe, they thought driving the higher scores was the scoring of things that are not observable in the classroom. And so one thing I should have noted before I flipped to the next slide is that under the new regulation, it is not permissible to score things that cannot be directly observed in the classroom. So much of what has been happening in summative conferences under 3012C, where teachers are bringing artifacts of their professional practice, important professional practice, will not be able to be factored into APPR scoring.
Such as a letter from a parent.
Correct. So in terms of the scoring, I'd kind of walked you through the 3 factors that led into 3012C APPR scoring. 3012D has a matrix associated with it, where it is basically where there's the intersection of student performance and observation, there's a rating that comes forth. There's a little bit more complexity to it than this, such as if you were to negotiate in use of state-approved assessments that were locally created. There's additional factors that drive how you apply this matrix. But honestly, there are a lot of details to work out.
This is, Mr. Delato, this is where your point is made here. Essentially with the new law, a person who scores ineffective on a state assessment score cannot be deemed no higher than developing, regardless if they're highly effective. So in other words, if the observers say, I think this person is highly effective, and their score comes in at anything lower, the highest they're going to get is the developing piece of it. So this is where this matrix create this counterbalance, if you will, between the two things as well. So to your point exactly.
So we obviously have a lot of work to do moving forward. First, we have to live, the law of the land is APPR, be it 3012C or 3012D. We're required to live under 3012C until we have a negotiated and accepted and approved plan by State Education Department for 3012D. And there is a timeline that is ticking on that. We are in the process of convening the ad hoc committee to begin actively negotiating APPR. Of course, we would love some additional guidance documents to couple that with that work and help guide that work. And we are under a requirement to begin training staff on 3012D, which we absolutely will be moving forward with. The hardship waiver application is available to districts and available for districts to submit beginning October 1st and going through October 30th. Or 31st, and that gives an approximate 4-month waiver on the implementation of 3012D if approved. And then there are opportunities for subsequent waivers, although there surely is a sunset on how long we'll be able to work toward hardship waivers. And you will certainly be hearing about this again when we go through our negotiating process and bring that back to the Board of Education.
Questions, Mrs. Lehman?
Realizing I accept the importance of the evaluation process, and what I would hope is that the importance of the student and the teacher and the parent feedback will somehow find its way back into the integrity of the Danielson rubric, which we have as a district put so much faith and trust in and invested so much of our efforts around. I think it's terribly unfortunate that someone outside the district should deem that material to be so unimportant that they would remove it from the evaluation process. It's the very thing that's important to the students and the families. It's the thing that makes the children want to come to school. It's the thing that makes students thrive in a classroom beyond the X's and O's and the bubble sheet and whatever. And I would really hope, I mean, whoever's listening, whatever, that needs to come back. That needs to have value, because it has value to them, and it needs to have value in this process, in my opinion.
Anybody else? Thank you very much.
Thanks,
More
Mr.
more to follow on this one, right?
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
What's that?
So we're going to move on to the primary grades report card. Erica Ryan. And we all have copies in front of us. So
Yes.
sure.
You have, I will just start with what's in front of you. You have a copy of a draft of the new primary report card. That's the first document here. And I say it's a draft because there are still a couple of revisions that we are working on right now, but this is generally what the report card, the finalized report card, is going to look like. The middle gold page is the Fountas and Pinnell reading level correlation chart, which I'm going to explain in just a moment. And then I also gave you a copy of what our previous report card looked like, just for comparison's sake. So the mission of this committee, we were put together to revise the report card to reflect our current instructional resources that we're using and the new standards. We put together a committee that had representation from each of the 8 school buildings, and I was very fortunate to head this committee. It was a very hardworking committee that worked quickly and got a lot of work done. We started by putting out a survey to parents and to teachers, and parents took the survey at parent-teacher conference last year. Because this is a communication tool for parents and teachers, we felt it was really important to have both perspectives when sitting at the table making these revisions. Yes. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to highlight some of the changes on the report card. The first thing that you'll notice from the first card to the second card is it's a condensed version. So we cut down the continuums. We took off the continuums, the reading, the writing, and the spelling continuum, and we added in the Fountas and Pinnell reading level. And that's this chart that you'll see here. The teachers are going to be reporting out on the reading levels for each student, because the Fountas and Pinnell reading assessment is what we use to get a child's reading level. And when the teacher reports the level in the Fountas and Pinnell reading level box, the comments will populate depending on the level that they choose. So if they choose level A, these comments will populate in the box below, and then you will also see that there are parent tips for parents to use as well. So we thought that was a very important piece for parents when communicating. You'll also notice that we have simplified the work habits and the social growth. Again, we used a lot of language from the new standards to reflect those changes. And basically, the last part of this slide just talks about how the teachers are really going to put a lot more emphasis on the comment section of the report card, because we condensed the other pieces of the report card. We talked to teachers a lot on Superintendent's Conference Day about what kinds of comments parents are looking to have and other things that we should be commenting on the report card. We have a lot of students that might move from building to building, and it's really important because this is a communication tool that we use not just with parents, but from teachers to teachers as well.
Can I just ask a question? On the parent tips, did we develop them? Did we get them part of a package or something? I think it's, I ask the question because I think it's a great thing to have on here, because I remember looking at report cards or, facing a grandson coming through the system in a while, and, okay, but what do I do with this? What,
This actually came from the Fountas and Pinnell Reading Assessment, and I do have to point out one teacher that's been instrumental in the creation of this is Caitlin Legowski from Carrigon. She was actually using this, her and her team were using this Fountas and Pinnell reading level correlation chart with parents prior, and we did edit it slightly, but because the Fountas and Pinnell name is on that, we kept it pretty consistent. So.
Thank you.
Other quick question.
Sure.
Will the parents at the beginning of this, will they get this information as a whole? So for instance, if my child brought home an F for I'd be ready to kill him. But that's not necessarily a bad thing in the grade. You know what I'm saying?
Depending on your grade level.
Exactly.
Yes.
So is this something so parents can see, the whole scale of where their kids are and where they're going to be? Or is this something just for us?
At Superintendent's Conference Day, I met with all the primary teachers, and we went over the importance of talking to parents about this report card at open house, and that we were going to distribute this paper at open house as well. So parents will have this at open house, but then they will again get it when they sit down at the first parent-teacher report card conference. So teachers are well aware that we're going to inform parents of that. And this is a welcome change here in Shenendehowa. The teachers are incredibly excited about this report card because it matches nicely what the intermediate report card looks like, and I think it really complements the instructional tools that we're using.
And Erica, I just want to applaud, if I could talk, you and your committee for coming up with this, especially with the reading characteristics, not just the scales. And that's coming from a mother one child who had learning disability with reading, and I would get these, this is what they got in the Lexile, this is what they got in the Fontaine, and I'm like, what does that really mean? And of course, I was an active parent that bothered every teacher to get all the information and research it, but I think it's just helpful when the parents get it with the helpful tips to help with the reading strategies at home to reinforce what their kids are doing in school, that they have that continuation at home as well with some other activities that don't seem like reading and work, but just some of the, like I said, the aspects of everyday living that you can tie into the reading. So I think that was key to do that, and I applaud you guys for doing that, as well as encouraging or telling teachers basically that they should fill out the comments again for parents for that feedback. It's a communication tool. I think we can only contribute to what the teachers are doing with our kids in the classroom and be more proactive in assisting in that whole learning journey if we have that feedback. So I applaud you guys for that, and I hope all parents welcome it as much as the teachers are thrilled by this. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think that this is actually was a good lead-in to talk about even the district goals tonight. And I won't necessarily go into it too much because certainly the board has seen it, but this is partially to also to our viewing public to have an appreciation of it. Everything that we do goes back to our mission as a system. And so having that mission statement there kind of speaks to the things that we're trying to do in terms of the knowledge, skills, abilities, character that our students need. And nothing on here talks about some of the political terms that are often thrown around. This is what drives our work as a system every day, and so I just want to emphasize that point of it. This graphic is hard to see, but I just wanted to use as a symbolism that everything in the system is connected. So one thing supports the next thing. So it's more symbolic than not, because oftentimes people think about the different goal areas as being separate entities. But the reality of it is they're very much one and the same. And for the board, you have at your table a version that you probably could be able to read a little closer, and also there are copies in the back as well. So I just want to emphasize that. But this really gives a close-up view, and we did this for a couple of reasons. We, meaning Kelly DeFisciani. But one of the things that we want also to make this document very simple for people to grab and have, and to say in one sheet, one look, I can have a real sense of what's the focus of the school district. What are our goals, how those goals define, and what are some of the major objectives that we're trying to realize in achieving our respective goal areas. So it's a practical document as well as a symbolic piece. Just want to pull out for a second some pieces of the goal area. Again, some a little bit difficult to see here, but on the instructional side, and you heard a lot of it being referred to tonight, and something even Mrs. Cooper, spoke to and Mr. DeLallo spoke to in terms of the high-quality instruction piece. And one of our areas over here it speaks to, we use some of the jargon, the college and career readiness piece. However, if you know, when we think about the whole college and career readiness, there's a recognition that our job is truly to try to help our children realize their preferred dreams, whatever those dreams might be. In some cases, it's stretching beyond the capacity that they think they can be stretched as well. So it's not one of those things to make school easy. Learning is a complicated process. And so we want to stretch kids and support kids as we move forward, So I just want to emphasize that piece of it. And clearly there are some mandates and things that we have to be aware of and pay attention to, but that's not the predominant focus of our goals, instructional goals area. It's truly about that cognitive focus. How do we create that environment where kids' minds are being tested, being stretched, being introduced, being forced to explore new ideas, new concepts. And the best way, in fact, I was just talking to this friend of mine, his daughter's in 2nd grade, just saw her this afternoon, and so I said, so how is school? She was kind of like, I go home and my brain hurts. And I was like, that's great. And she was like, no, it's not. I was like, okay, let me ask you this. When you go to soccer practice and you come home, does your leg hurt? She was like, yeah, because I'm real into it. It's the same thing. It's just the same thing that you're doing with your mind. You're exercising your mind so it can be bigger, faster, stronger as you move forward. And for a kid in 2nd grade, she understood that. Kid in 12th grade may not appreciate it as much because they don't want their brains to hurt because of senioritis. So this kind of put that in perspective, and I really want to talk about that whole notion of the intellectual engagement piece, because that's something I know that's been important for this board, and that's not lost in terms of what we're really trying to do here in terms of how do we try to facilitate that intellectual engagement. How do we really have kids think? Because at the end of the day, we're not necessarily trying to teach kids to master or to hold on to particular content. We're trying to teach kids how to be learners, how to learn. And ultimately, that's a skill set that will carry through life regardless of what they do. So when we look at our instructional goals and look at some of the objectives, that's truly the thing that we're trying to do. Again, trying to help kids realize their appropriate dreams. And even some pieces of in terms of how we look at data sets. You heard Dr. Wood talking about data and how do we transform data into information and not just collecting a bunch of data points versus using the data points as information, be it assessment data or whatever. How do we use it as information to make good decisions and good decisions on behalf of kids? And so even while the debate rages about state assessments and all those kind of things, we look at it as opportunity point to grab good data points to make good decisions about program decisions, instruction decisions, and good decisions on behalf of our students. So this really speaks to the heart of where we're trying to do instructionally with our instructional goals. Related to that is our organizational culture goal. And this one is one of those areas that's sometimes hard to put your thumb on, because when you're thinking about culture, it's something that you know, you feel it when it's there, and you also feel when the culture is not the right place, when we don't have environments, and you feel it. You walk into a place, you can tell what the place is about. You can feel the vibrancy, you feel the energy in the air, or you quite frankly might feel a place that's not so positive. So we certainly want to create that environment as a school system that speaks to that. We also want to create an environment that as a system that we have natural partnerships with our community, be it natural partnerships with our parents, natural partnership with our businesses, whatever those natural partnerships is. And a lot of that comes through communication. How we communicate how you communicate as a board, how we communicate as an educational institution, and certainly with technology nowadays, we have done a lot of things to enhance that ability to engage people in the process and provide that context so people have real intelligent conversation about what are we doing and why are we doing it and what's the best thing to do on behalf of our students. So a big part of organizational culture is that piece of it. A big part of the organizational culture is also support innovative practices. Again, giving people that welcome, you are allowed that permission, if you will, to try creative things. You are allowed to try to build partnerships. You are allowed, and so create that type of environment with our school community is important. And also tapping into the diversity of our school community. As a school, we are changing demographically significantly every day. Just talking about 10-year kind of comparison, when I started 10 years ago, our non-white, and I'm just going to use that as just two broad categories, our non-white population was less than 4%. Today, our non-white population is over 20%. And somebody will say, wow, but when you look at that statistically, it's huge shift in the demographics. And so if you even think about just pure racial or ethnic demographics, but think about how the community has changed otherwise, socially, economically, and how do we tap into that to enhance the quality of the educational system we have here. So the organizational culture speaks to that piece of it, and a large part of it is enhancing that community awareness about what we do, and kudos to a lot of the things that we have done. And just for example, right now, Mrs. DeFisciano is in the process of redesigning our entire website to make it much more what I call forward-facing, interacting with people just versus being a repository for information. And because that's how we communicate nowadays with technology. People pick up devices and access information, and so we want to be able to do that as a system too. So organizational culture is huge for us as a system. And if you go into any of the buildings, you'll see a certain mood. In fact, as I'm standing here in the library, if you notice, even here in the library, you see quotations, you see all those little symbolic things, send messages to folks that this is a place that's inviting. This is a place where we want kids to be learners. We want kids to thrive on the learning experience. The third goal area I just want to highlight a little bit, our human resource goal. And we heard it tonight in terms of the new cadre of new teachers. And I would say, quite frankly, we probably hired I know for sure, over 100 new employees this year between instructional and non-instructional staff. A lot of new people coming through the system. And so how do we focus on always trying to hire quality folks? Ultimately, that's our ultimate measure, try to hire quality people to be in front of our kids, with our kids, and supporting the process. You just heard Dr. Wood talk about the evaluation system. How do we use the evaluation system to drive professional development? And so while the debate rages out there, we try to say, what can we learn from this? And probably the best quote, I'm going to attribute this to Mr. Flint. He said something that, one of the things that the evaluation system does, it gives us a chance to have those real intellectual conversations with teachers that you read about in research journals. We can have those conversations about how can you be better as a professional. And that happens in every domain, be it instruction, the academic arena, athletic arena, or even Al with his folks in transportation. Having those real conversations, how can we be better at our respective craft? And so that's a big part of HR. Try to hire well, support well, and quite frankly, we know that also a good part of a good HR process is a good exit process. That if we have to make those critical decisions, we have a process to do that as well to ensure that we do keep quality folks on staff. And a big part of that too, we've been really focused on trying to diversify our staff. And this, I know this is a goal goes back to 10 years ago with Mr. Casey, that how can we diversify our staff much more, be it whatever category of diversity you want to call, be it race, age, otherwise, trying to do that for our staff is always a constant focus for us. And it's something that we're really looking at now, that one of the areas that we're going to look at is that we're seeing that there's certain curricular areas that's getting more and more difficult to just get applicants. And to give you a good example, right now, we can't find a LOTE teacher in Latin out there. Latin is a wonderful thing. My kid did it for 5 years here at Shen. He thought it was one of the best classes he's taken here. But quite frankly, it's just probably one of the most difficult areas for us to find a Latin certified teacher. For example, one area that's becoming exceedingly different, not to go too far this, is that we're starting, before it used to be science, people would talk about the sciences, it's actually more the math now. And so I say that because as a system, we know that we are going to continue to offer certain things to kids, so we have to find different ways of tapping in, different vehicles of tapping into the pool of candidates beyond what we have done in the past. And so those are some of the challenges also on the HR side to sustain our continuous commitment to hiring quality people and supporting them as we move forward. So that's going to be one of those ambitious goals as we move forward. And related to this is our physical capacity in terms of how do we ensure that we have the financial wherewithal to do the things that we want to do. And it's not about doing things once, and the board has heard me say this many times over. We could put anything in the budget one time. I tell people I could do anything one time, but that's not the issue. issue is how can we sustain it? What's the viability of doing these things, recognizing that we don't want kids to have a great year one year because we did a lot of things and next year we can't sustain it, and then it's an awful year. So sustainability becomes a huge part of our budget process. Comes with that is an entrepreneurial spirit. We want people to look at alternative sources of funding to try to find different things. We have a great partnership right now with the Shen Foundation. Has been a great source to tap into what we call private sector resources to support some of the programs in-house. It's been a great partnership for us as we're moving forward. So we're looking at those kind of things, but the big part of this goal, though, is not only just to prepare a passable budget, because a passable budget could be a budget that's detrimental to programs. It's a passable budget that supports programs, and more importantly, give us the capacity to enhance programs. So it's that three progression that we always have to think about. Yeah, we get anything. If we go out with a negative budget, people are going to pass it. But it's a negative budget for a reason, because it's not going to support programs. It certainly won't provide us the capacity to enhance programs. So that's a big part of it, and we hope that with the things that we do, we'll see enhanced voter turnout. We know that's been an issue, but it's been a national issue. Unfortunately, people don't come out to most elections. And we're trying to do those kind of things to let people know that the voice of the voter is valued and is important, because we want to hear the voice of the voter when we look at those kind of things.
You know, these two are very related, the budget resources and the human resources from the standpoint. And even look at this year, the teachers that we added. As a board, as a district, we didn't say, okay, we need these teachers, let's add them, and not knowing what's going to happen next year. Our goal isn't to add teachers and then have to cut teachers. Our goal is to sustain that. So they're very related.
Yep, I absolutely agree. And the last area that we're focused on, and the board is going to hear a lot more of on the operational side, because we have the 5-year facilities plan coming up, for example, to the board. It's something that I'm just going to introduce a concept to the board tonight. One of the things that, and I spoke to Mr. Casey about it earlier during the week, trying to lay out a multi-year referendum plan for the school district, a plan that's going to span about 15 years. In terms of how do we ensure that the quality of our facilities stay at a high level and not wait till we have a total erosion of facilities before we try to drop a lot of money into it all at once, because we know that's not good business practice as well. So probably at the October meeting, I'm going to lay out a more strategic piece for the board to contemplate that's going to align with our 5-year facilities plan that speak to this whole notion of, you hear me talking about future-proofing. It's always looking ahead. 10 years from now, where will we be as a system? 10 years from now, what type of facilities do we need? How do we invest now for 10 years from now? And so look at those kind of things. And so we're going to spend some time talking about that as we move forward as well. And safety is always a big part of what we need. But at the end of the day, when we talk about facilities and operations, you heard transportation presented tonight. It's about how do we meet the varied needs of kids? And how do we support those things? And so this goal speaks to, so it's not how do we keep buildings clean and how do we keep mechanical systems up and running. It's about all the things that support the overall system, from infrastructure to people themselves. And so operation services speak to those kind of things as we move forward, because again, you know, we know that we need to create environments that's conducive to learning. And that's how this helps. And so you know, you complimented the custodians on the first day of school. The reason why they take so much pride in it, because they know when kids come back to school in an environment that's clean and refreshed, they feel good about being in that environment. And so therefore they're turned on to learning and not turned off from learning. So all these things do come back together, as you said, Mr. Gilbert. So this gives the board an overview of our district goals. And you say, well, a lot of these things are consistent. They're consistent by design, because we want to have a steady progression ahead as we move for the system, and certainly appreciate the board adding that layer in terms of what would the board do to address some of these pieces is a great layer, because again, it builds on that whole notion of synergy of efforts on behalf of all parties. And so that's going to be a new dimension this year with the board objectives in terms of the board focus on the goal areas. Thoughts, concerns, criticisms?
I love this. You know, going back 2 years when I started, we had the goals, and I looked at that document in my head. You know, my eyes spun in my head trying to figure it out and everything. This makes it very easy, simple, and breaking it into those 5 quadrants was great. So I love this.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. So we'll move on to consent items. We have the treasurer's report and minutes. I didn't see any comments from people on minutes. Could I have a motion to approve the consent items, both items 6A and 6B? Gary, second. Christina? Any questions or comments?
I was not here on the 4th of August, so I'll abstain.
Okay. All those in favor? With one abstention. Action items, business items, approval of sports booster clubs. That's an annual requirement that we have. We just reviewed that in policy the other day, and that's, I'd forgotten we did it. And I asked the question, do we do this? Yes, you're going to do it at the next meeting. So I have a motion for approval of the sports booster clubs. Todd, second. Jim? Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Motion's carried. We have a contract with Wildwood, a sublease agreement over there on Tallowood. We have a motion to accept that. Christina, second. Jim? Questions or comments? All those in favor? Approved. We have a recommendation on disposal of buses. We buy some every year, and some end up going off to the auction house, where we found we use some here, and then we send some to the auction house, right? Can I have a motion to accept that? Gary, second. Jim? All in favor?
Just a real quick comment.
Yes,
on the
absolutely,
whole,
sure.
You know, we just talked about the operational support, and you talked about the plan on the facility side going up. That's the same mentality that you've had with the buses. You know, every year we replace a few, so all of a sudden at once, we don't have 40 buses we need to replace because they all broke down. So,
Yeah,
makes sense.
thank you. Exactly.
Talked about that.
Donations, the RIT mini grant. Can I have a motion to accept that? Jim, second. Mary? Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Motion carried. I'm sorry?
With
With gratitude, that's right. We have emergency pesticide application requirement that if we're going to do this, we have to actually have a motion by the board. Can I have a motion for item 5? Jim, second. Todd? All those in favor? We have scholarship and local grant donations. Have a motion with appreciation? Yes, that's right, Mary. Thank you. Mary, Christina? All those in favor? Motion carries. And finally, I have nomination for the NISBA voting delegate. I don't know, Gary, are you still willing to serve?
We
That was my
have
question.
3 new ones and 2 up for renewal. I'd like to be there to be able to speak to them if necessary.
So that motion is that we will, our voting delegate will be Mr. DeLallo. Can I have a motion and a second? Motion, Mary, second. Jim? All those in favor? Unanimously accepted here. Move on to student, Mrs. Milat, acceptance of
good
special ed
evening.
placement.
Yes, I have recommendations from the Committee on Special Education and the Committee on Preschool Special Education, and I have updated enrollment numbers in your packet.
Thank you, thank you. Could we have a motion to accept the special ed placements? Todd, second. Jim? Any questions or comments? How's the beginning of the year been? Frantic, busy?
It's been very
Nuts?
busy. Yes, my goal is to smile.
Yeah, there you go. Well,
Yes.
you're being successful. All those in favor? Motion carries. Personnel, we have staffing recommendations and a staffing addendum. Mrs. Bush is coming forward. She's still got frosting on her hands. Thank you.
Green in
Thank
my
you.
teeth, yeah, thanks. Thank you for the cake. I also want to thank the board for not only a thorough review of the agenda, but the support that we've been given as we are hiring our new teachers and non-instructional staff. Here, or recommend the latest, the addendum, were 2 folks that I signed yesterday. One is going to start tomorrow. So, well, hopefully. All right, so with that being said, there are some retirements that are upcoming in the certified staff. Kathy Mason is going to retire at the end of December. She's a music teacher. And Judy Weatherhead is our speech teacher. She's also going to be retiring at the end of December. In the classified, we have Eugene Lubis, who's a cleaner. He's retiring as of September 29th. Marcia Murrow is a food service helper, and she retired actually August 25th. And Cynthia Raybook, school technologist who's been with us for several years, she's retiring at the end of September. Her husband's retiring and she's relocated.
Could I have a motion to accept that? Todd? Second. Bob? Any questions?
Just wish them all well in their
Wish
retirement.
them well in their
Yeah,
retirement. That's
certainly
right,
earned
yeah.
it.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Gratitude.
Motion carries. We'll move on to public comments. Anyone from the public who would like to comment at this time? If,
Did you want to recognize
Is that okay? I'm
Renee,
so
Mr.
sorry.
Casey?
Our
I'm,
academic administrator, Renee Young.
Yes,
for Special education, she is
Do we
here
have any
this
teachers
evening.
here? Would we recommend?
Do we have any of our other new teachers here this evening? No, that was it for
Okay,
just
so Renee, you want to stand up and
Renee,
wave?
sorry. Renee has been with our district for almost 20 years. She did start when she was 9. She's been a teacher at Orangen, a literacy coach, and now will be moving into the administrative ring. So, thank you.
thank you. Congratulations. So before we move to adjournment, I'll just mention a couple things. Next meeting, a study session on September 29th, and the meetings for October 13th and the 27th, the business meeting and the study session. Could I have a motion for adjournment? Todd, second. Bob? Any questions? All those in favor? Thank you. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.